who should be at the strategic planning table? You're getting started with your strategic planning process. You're excited, and you probably want to hear from lots of different people in your community. That might be your clients, it might be your donors, it might be community partners. At the end of the day, anyone who has a vested interest in your organization is a stakeholder. When beginning work with my clients, the first question we tackle is, who are your stakeholders? Who are your stakeholders? Stakeholders are essentially people who impact your work or are impacted by your work. Very simple definition. If someone impacts your work, they're a stakeholder. If someone is impacted by your work, they also are a stakeholder. So when we consider how to engage stakeholders, we first say, who are we talking about? I like to divide stakeholders into segments because that helps us get a better picture of what information they might bring to the table, the value, and also how we might want to engage them. So I like to have a little chart. I mean, super simple, and it's a little chart and it says, here's the stakeholder. Then it'll say something in the next column like, what are the priorities or the key conversation points that this group can inform? So if I'm talking about quality service or needs for services, that might come under my client stakeholder group. If I want to know, hey, are my donors passionate about this particular thing we might be doing? That might be under that segment. So again, I typically say, who are my stakeholders and what are the things that they're going to be sharing that's most important to the strategic planning process? And then we go on into the conversation to say, okay, what are the questions that we need answered in order to engage in strategic planning? Now, there are lots of ways to engage stakeholders. I once had a client tell me that they were going to send a survey out, the same survey to over 7,000 people. When I looked at the survey, there were over 21 open-ended questions, which means if everyone responded, they would have over 144,000 open-ended responses that someone on their team would be responsible for filtering through. That is not very feasible sometimes. We don't have the capacity, and sometimes we don't have the skill set, right, to filter through so much data, even if it is important. So what I typically encourage you to do is to break down the segments and say, how do we want to engage these people and what do we need to know pre-planning and post? Consider your strategic plan this way. It's kind of like saying, I'm going to build a house. I'm going to build a house beside the lake. Your first call isn't going to be to your interior designer saying, should I paint the bathroom seafoam green or canary yellow? It's going to be to an architect, to the zoning committee, or to someone, general contractor, to say, can I even build here? And if so, should I build here? Right? So there's always that, can I build here? That's the, is it even feasible? And then should it be a priority? Those are the types of questions, those could we build here and should we build here, those big picture things that we want to collect that information from stakeholders before strategic planning. If we already know that we're going to start a new membership program, due diligence has been completed, and we know we're going to do that, we don't have to ask stakeholders pre-strategic planning, do you want to see a membership program? Hopefully that's already happened. If you've already gotten that answer, you're not going to ask them all the details. You can wait until after the strategic planning master document is finished and then include them in a secondary phase, which is, now that we're moving forward with this new membership program, we want to hear, what would you like to see it include? So there's two levels of stakeholder engagement. One is pre-planning. It's that, could we build here? Should we build here? High level conversation. And then there's the implementation stage. Now that we are building here, your input is really valuable. So your question for your group is, are we going to engage stakeholders in the pre-planning process? Some of them should be. Absolutely. I want to see board and staff and some key conversations happening with stakeholders there. And who are we going to engage once we have the master plan, but we need to actually begin to put it into place and bring it to life? Who needs to be a part of those conversations to help guide that process? So hopefully that's helpful as you begin to think, who are stakeholders? How should we engage them? What questions should we be asking?